Welcome to our tutorial on how to install a 3-node cluster in HySecure. In this tutorial, we will guide you through the process of setting up a 3-node cluster, ensuring high availability and seamless communication in your HySecure environment. Before starting, ensure the following prerequisites are met. The HySecure Gateway ISO must be uploaded to the data store in the hypervisor. Hypervisor access is required to assign IP addresses to the nodes. For a 3-node cluster setup, you will need 4 private IP addresses, one for the active node, one for the standby node, one for the real node or web node, and one for the VIP. For an N-node cluster, you will need N+1 private IPs and 1 public IP. For public IP configuration, you can set up a public IP with NAT to the VIP for application access. App Tunnel Access operates over TCP 443 or a custom port, while Turbo Tunnel Access uses UDP 443 or a custom port. Administrator rights are required on the admin system to install the workspace client, enroll the security officer, and access the management console. Ensure that the admin system has access to all HySecure private IPs over ports 443 and 3636. Software requirements include the installation of PuTTY, WinSCP, and either Chrome or Firefox on the end-user system. Additionally, required upgrade patches must be copied to the admin system in a LAN environment. To maintain cluster version consistency, ensure all HySecure nodes in the cluster run the same gateway version with identical patches installed. When adding a new node, confirm it matches the patch version of existing nodes. In the cluster, the third node is typically called the real node or web node. When added, it assumes the HySecure Gateway role, and any further servers added to the cluster will also take on this role. Open the HySecure VM, which you want to set as primary server in the cluster. Log in with the default credentials, which is the console admin credentials. Enter option 1 to do network configuration of the HySecure Gateway server. Enter option 1 to configure the Ethernet device of the HySecure Gateway server. Enter the device number of your NIC card, which would be 0. Configure the IP address, subnet mask and gateway of the HySecure Gateway server. Save the configuration and press Enter to continue. Return to the network configuration and enter the second option to set the hostname. Set the hostname as the primary server for easier identification and press Enter to continue. Navigate to your Windows PC and access the HySecure Gateway server via the static IP assigned to the primary server. Click on Configure HySecure now. Read the end-user license agreement and click on I accept the terms and conditions to proceed. Click Submit to proceed with the installation. In the System Configuration page, you will see the host name and the Ethernet network already pre-configured. Configure the primary and secondary DNS to your AD static IP and DNS, which helps in resolving public FQDNs. If required, set the SSH credentials to your requirements or keep it as default. Set the date and time settings, or you can set your NTP server to either your AD or your own made NTP server. Click Submit to finalize the configuration. Review your configuration and click Continue. Click Continue to proceed with the new installation. Choose Default Accops Internal CA for creating a default certificate, or choose External CA if you want to create a user with your own security certificates. Create a default CA and enter basic information like company name, country, state, city, and validity. Next, add the details of your security officer account. Keep in mind that this will be your primary method to log in and access the HySecure Management Console, so make sure that the user ID of the security officer is unique. It is preferable that when creating a SO user for each server, the user ID should have its HySecure static IP included to maintain distinction in your digital certificates. Review all the fields and click Submit once done. Copy the passphrase and save it, as this is essential to register our digital certificate via the Workspace or HySecure client. Launch the HySecure client or Workspace client. For the Workspace client, navigate to Settings, Enroll Certificate. For the HySecure, click on the Action tab and click on Enroll Client SSL Certificate. Enter your saved passphrase and password that you want to assign and click on Submit. Make sure when entering your password, enter upper-lowercase sensitive alphanumeric data to fulfill the password requirements. Once the certificate is enrolled, log in via your new security officer credentials, which will automatically open the HySecure Management Console. Navigate to the Gateway State sub-tab via Services Config tab through the Settings, and change the state to Run State. Next, navigate to the Local Groups via the Users tab and create a Security Officer group. Set the security level to High. Save this group and add your security officer in the local group by modifying the user in the local users. Next, we need to create a VIP app and high security app group. Navigate to the Apps tab and click on App Groups. Click on Add to create an app group. Add application group name and set the security level to High. Click on Submit. Go to Apps section and click on Add button. Create a VIP app by adding app ID and display name. Set the app type as HTTP and keep the tunnel as app tunnel. For the app server address and web URL, choose a static IP which neither the HySecure Gateway servers or any other application will use. This static IP will be used as a virtual IP address to access the cluster. Enter the web URL as shown here with the exception of the static IP which you will choose. Add the application to the SO app group and click Submit. Next, we need to create a policy to grant access control to this application. Navigate to Policies tab and go to ACL, click on Add. Keep the access control type as Application Access and give it an access control name. Keep the HySecure domain as default, authorization server as native and assignment type to user groups. Keeping the native group type as high security group, select the app group that we had made and add it. Click Submit to save changes. Next, navigate to Settings tab and go to the Cluster section. Click on Configure and check the Create a New Cluster option. Here, select the role of node as Active Load Balancer and set the virtual IP as the IP assigned to the VIP app. Set the subnet mask and the NIC card of the cluster as per your configuration in the HySecure Gateway server. Click on Submit. Once the cluster has been created, log out and log back into the HySecure Management Console and navigate back to the cluster configuration. Here, enter the VIP address as designated and enter the subnet mask. Enter the IP addresses of the primary and standby server. The standby or backup server will be created after the configuration is done in the primary server. Click Save. Once the changes have been made, navigate back to the configuration and add the load balancing servers. The load balancing servers details will be the same as the primary, standby, and gateway servers details of HySecure. Both standby and gateway are yet to be configured, so ensure that the static IP you choose isn't used by anyone. Click on Reload Service to restart the service with the saved settings. Open HySecure VM, which you want to set as standby or backup server in the cluster. Log in with the default credentials, which is the console admin credentials. Enter option 1 to do network configuration of the HySecure Gateway server. Enter option 1 to configure the Ethernet device of the HySecure Gateway server. Enter the device number of your NIC card, which would be 0. Configure the IP address, subnet mask and gateway of the HySecure Gateway server to the details of the secondary node added as the load balancing server. Save the configuration and press Enter to continue. Return to the network configuration and enter the second option to set the hostname. Set the hostname as the standby or backup server for easier identification and press Enter to continue. Navigate to the same Windows PC and access the HySecure Gateway server via the static IP assigned to the standby server. Perform the same steps and fill in same details as done for the configuration of the primary server. But this time set the user ID to have the IP of your standby server. Copy the passphrase and perform the same steps on the client application and access the HySecure Management Console. Once accessible, set the gateway to run state and navigate to the cluster settings as before. Configure the cluster settings and change the node to backup load balancer and set the network details to the cluster we had made earlier. Click on Submit. Log out and log back into the primary server and navigate to the Monitor tab. Here, you should see the standby node as shown here. Finally, we need to add the last HySecure Gateway server as a gateway node to the cluster. Open HySecure VM, which you want to set as gateway node in the cluster. Log in with the default credentials, which is the console admin credentials. Enter option 1 to do network configuration of the HySecure Gateway server. Enter option 1 to configure the Ethernet device of the HySecure Gateway server. Enter the device number of your NIC card, which would be 0. Configure the IP address, subnet mask and gateway of the HySecure Gateway server to the details of the gateway node added as the load balancing server. Save the configuration and press Enter to continue. Return to the network configuration and enter the second option to set the hostname. Set the hostname as the gateway server for easier identification and press Enter to continue. Navigate to the same Windows PC and access the HySecure Gateway server via the static IP assigned to the real or web node. Perform the same steps and fill in same details as done for the configuration of the primary server. But this time, set the user ID to have the IP of your gateway server. Copy the passphrase and perform the same steps on the client application and access the HySecure Management Console. Once accessible, set the gateway services to run state and navigate to the cluster settings as before. Configure the cluster settings and change the node to HySecure Gateway and set the network details to the cluster we had made earlier. Click on Submit. When you click on Submit, the HySecure Management Console should no longer be accessible through the Gateway node. Log out of the client and log back in via the primary or backup node of the HySecure cluster. Access the HySecure Management Console, and check for two things. Navigate to the cluster settings and in the Manage tab, check if the status shows all services running. And go to Monitor Dashboard and check if all three nodes are showing in the cluster nodes information. If both of these are showing correctly, then you have performed a successful 3-node HySecure installation. For more information, refer to our documentation portal at docs.accops.com or contact our support team for further assistance.